Our first guest is here. She is a Russian wrestling YouTuber. She is an Instagram model. She is one of my favorite guests on the Hannibal TV. Ksenia, the beautiful Russian diamond. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, we're doing great. I'm just admiring my co-host today background. He's got his WWF comforter. I know
Love
you
that.
have quite a collection of not only, you're actually a collector. For anyone that doesn't know Ksenia, she has a YouTube channel, Xenia Did That. She's on Instagram. She's very humble, but she lives a very impressive life, in my opinion.
I've
Lots of
seen her.
traveling.
I've been researching her since yesterday, since I saw her on your program, and very impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I actually, talking about being a collector, I recently found out that I have the biggest wrestling figure collection in Russia, which sounds pretty impressive, you know.
Wow. Let's hear about your collection and how big it is exactly.
Absolutely. What's your most prized possession?
It's not that big. Again, about me being humble, you know, but for Russia, it is pretty big. I have about 200 Mattels and then some, you know, other stuff here and there, some Funkos, some Jacks. And talking about the prized possession, actually, it's funny how the vast majority of my collection is Mattels, but my favorite is a Jax. And it's a Jax specific figure of Dolph Ziggler before he became Dolph Ziggler, that being Nikki of the Spirit Squad.
Wow.
Awesome. That's cool.
I used to have the big rubber ones.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, you had those. I'm a little older than our Russian friend here.
Yeah.
Do you have any of those those rubber wrestling dolls that were popular in the 80s?
No, I don't. I actually started collecting not that long ago. I always say a different number when I'm asked because I honestly don't know for sure, but I'd say about 6-ish or 7-ish years. So didn't have the time yet to go that deep, you know.
And your first doll that you had was an Edge doll, right? And that was even before you knew about wrestling. I was the same way. The first doll I ever had was a Ken Patera doll. And then I ended up interviewing Ken Patera twice, so it was kind of cool. But it was just one of these things where you go to visit Santa Claus at a mall and like you would get a random toy. I didn't even know what wrestling was. So I identified with her story.
Yeah, that was the LJN brand, those models. They before Hasbro took over, I think in 1991. If you have any of the LJNs from like 89, I think that was their last year under contract. Those, particularly on card, worth a tremendous amount of money.
Now,
and you mentioned the Edge doll that they had. I don't even have it anymore. And it haunts me because I'm still not sure like what it was, what brand it was. And I tried to find it and to no avail. So.
Oh, interesting. I think I stopped collecting by that time. I had the smaller ones that came after those LGN figures, but then once I became older, I got other interests. But you mentioned Dolph Ziggler. You actually interviewed Dolph Ziggler recently, as well as The Miz and Drew McIntyre, probably the lowest drawing WWE champion of all time, but I know you like him. So how did you get these interviews and what was it like interviewing current WWE stars?
It wasn't as much of a full-blown interview as much as it was like a glorified meet and greet, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's just, you know, the matter of being in the right place at the right time. So, and I truly mean it, because to sign up on one of those like meet and greets or, you know, virtual signings, as they say, you really need to act quick. It's pretty hard to get one of those, and that's why I only managed to get 3 people on the channel. But yeah, it was fun. And Dolph Ziggler, as you know, and maybe some people who watch my channel know, is one of my all-time favorites. Someone that I would call my favorite wrestler sometimes. So meeting him for the first time in such context was really weird, but nonetheless pretty special.
Yeah. Were any of the other wrestlers particularly stand out in your memory? You know,
I Yeah, I recently posted a video about it. That's why I got kind of stumped that you asked, because The Miz was the absolute first wrestler that I ever met. And he's also one of my absolute favorites. And it was, again, under pretty special circumstance because he actually came to Moscow, Russia when WWE did their first tour in Moscow, Russia. Again, they did 2 cities, I think. Not that big of a tour, but they did. And coming back to that, and getting to talk to him about that again 8 years later was also pretty special. So if you ask me about the wrestler that left a lasting impression, that would 100% be The Miz, because I was 15 years old. I've never seen wrestling live whatsoever, even though I was a wrestling fan for 5-ish years at that point already. And just being able to actually see my favorite wrestler in person, and the first wrestler that I could see in person being my favorite wrestler, was kind of amazing.
I'm seeing that once again you have different nails today. Always different.
As always.
She's quite a beauty queen for anyone that doesn't
great.
know. I
Very
highly suggest people follow her.
Very unique.
Now, as far as The Miz, one thing a lot of people don't know is The Miz's show, Miz and Mrs., outdraws WWE NXT in ratings almost, actually every single week. I don't think NXT has ever beat The Miz's reality show. I've never actually seen it, but I'm sure Ksenia has seen it. What do you think of his reality show?
Yeah, I've seen several episodes, not the entire thing, unfortunately, but I know about it. And it's a shame that the mainstream wrestling fan underestimates the power of those reality shows, because they truly help create new fan bases. They help draw new people and get them to watch wrestling. And the thing is, I recently talked to an aspiring wrestler in Russia here. Her name is Kylie Devin. She performs at IWF Russia. And we were just talking about, how we got into wrestling and such things. And she actually told me that she got into wrestling by watching Total Divas. And she's pretty young. And it's so fun to see, this new generation of female wrestlers and fans coming up in the industry that became attracted to the whole thing because of that reality TV. And right now she's, very much not a diva type of thing. She has this creepy gimmick. She's a powerhouse. She's taller than me. And it doesn't, some people think that implementing all of those reality TV tactics will, make wrestling something different, glamorize it or whatever. No, that's totally not the case. It is just a very, very powerful tool.
I've actually interviewed numerous female wrestlers in their 20s in recent years, and even this week, and Total Divas did motivate many of them to get into wrestling. And I think women's wrestling is more entertaining than men right now. I have to say it. I enjoy it better than men. Who are some of your favorite diva wrestlers out there right now? Both of you could answer me this.
Oh, I could, I don't want to put a name on it, but just what's amazing to me is how far women's wrestling has come. When you look at 1985 and the original Screwjob with Wendy Richter, when basically put on the back burner for many years, to where it is today. I mean, complete polar opposite. It's amazing the work the women have done. It's truly amazing. You go.
Yeah, definitely. And, it sounds like it's such, an evolution that, of course, definitely took time and effort. But looking back, even 3 years ago, 5 years ago, it was totally different. We talk about it like it's, an issue that we basically overcame, which first of all, is not true. And second of all, there's so much more to be done. And it started just so very recently. And talking about some of the favorites, I guess it's evident by what I look like right now. I'm repping Taya Valkyrie, who is my absolute favorite. But yeah, it is hard to, pick and choose favorites because there have been so many breakout stars and then superstars that have just shown themselves in different light. Sasha Banks has been an absolute banger recently, that's impossible not to mention. And AEW also showcased some of the NWA's women's roster, which is also great. So yeah, I'll just like to double down on what you said. Women are doing amazing right now and very, very entertaining to watch.
Have you been following the Thunder Rosa and Ivelisse drama that stemmed from that unusual AEW match they had where Ivelisse appeared to stop selling briefly? I asked Thunder Rosa about it when I interviewed her. She wouldn't comment, but apparently they've been going at it on Twitter. I don't know if that's shoot or they're trying to work an angle out of it. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's work either. And the thing is, I first heard of it and read about it and then watched the match. Like when I first read the descriptions, it did seem pretty wild. But then I actually watched the match and I was like, it's not that bad, it's nothing tragic. Of course, a hair flick or two doesn't look that great in the wrestling ring, but nothing, too horrible happened as far as I could judge. But the sole fact that she wouldn't comment really draws more attention to it. So I guess we'll see. But, for me, the rule of thumb is if they're going around on Twitter talking about it, that's probably work. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should turn it into a work, even if it's not, because people are talking about it and people want to see the match. Now, my favorite video from your channel is the one where you do a little bit of wrestling training. Have you done any training since then? Because you definitely have the look and the speaking ability to probably a company like AEW or WWE would want in the future if you were to get some experience. But I know you're very intelligent. You have other projects that are important to you too. But do you think you're gonna maybe pursue wrestling a little bit because you're so passionate about it?
It's super nice of you to say that it's one of your favorite videos on my channel because it is one of my favorite videos that I've ever made. It was really fun to make and it was something that I had been thinking about for a long time before I actually did it. But every time people ask me that, I always say the same thing. I'm not a wrestler. I do not aspire to be a wrestler because I feel like, as you mentioned, the talking ability, I feel like there's stuff that I can do that would be better and more beneficial for the industry and for myself with what I have and with what I aspire to be. As you said, AEW or WWE are definitely a goal, 100%, but in a different way. I love, analyzing. I love doing think pieces. I have done a panel here and there in local wrestling. And I am also very passionate about inclusion, about feminism, about women's rights. And I feel like that's something, as we already mentioned, that wrestling is trying to achieve, but is lacking here and there. And I would love to bring that expertise because I do think of myself as an expert. I have given a lecture in one of the biggest universities in Russia about rape culture. I have written stuff. I have done videos about it. So I feel like that's something that I bring to the table. So why go and wrestle if I have something that's, to me personally, more, something that I'm more obsessed with, I guess you could say.
I see. And as far as maybe the creative side of it, would you think that you might have anything to give to a company like WWE that's always looking for writers, or even start smaller with an independent group sharing some ideas of the creative side of wrestling?
Yeah, I always say that modern wrestling, 100% needs more women writers because that would definitely change the game. Because I know some differences or some details might not seem that drastic, but a female gaze, if you will 100% make a difference. And if at a certain point in my career, that female writer has to be me, I'm 100% ready to do the job. But I don't think I'm that interested in starting small, as you said, because I feel like if you are there to bring change, you need to start big. So I'm more about, bringing a project into something big than starting, from the bottom, because in the end of the day, changes happen top to bottom, not the other way around.
Jack, I see you have your microphone there. Do you want to ask her something?
No, I mean, I personally was just going to say, I think that the industry kind of needs to be recreated from the inside up. That there not only needs to be a shakeup at WWE, but just industry-wide, there needs to be a refocus on characterization and just storyline. Because I think professional wrestling is capable of so much more. And I think that, unfortunately, Vince McMahon, who is, the God of all gods, he is Zeus. He is the good Lord Jesus and everything else. He controls the show. And I don't think that he's open-minded to change within the industry, or if he is, he's doing a very good job pretending he's not.
Yeah.
There's this concept that's called the tolerance paradox. And that is, for a society, or in our case, for a company or an industry, to be tolerant, it needs to be 100% intolerant towards intolerance. I hope I'm making sense here. And the thing is, until there's no zero tolerance policy towards certain human rights violations in wrestling, we won't be moving forward. And I don't necessarily mean, canceling people or completely, destroying their careers, as people say, or whatever. For example, I feel like AEW handled the situation with Sammy Guevara perfectly. I felt like that was, the best thing to do in the situation. And it's not that hard to do, it's not rocket science. And until people in their minds know that they have to be completely intolerant to intolerance, that's the key for change.
Yeah. Now, speaking of sticky situations, what do you think about this Matt Riddle situation with the lady accusing him of sexual assault?
I'll say as much. I've read the statements of both sides, and to me personally, it's pretty clear who is telling the truth, but I won't comment any further.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that, but I do understand that one of the reasons they changed his name to Riddle, the rumor is, so when you search it, all the stuff about Matt Riddle doesn't show up because there's so many other words that go by Riddle, so it was more safe. But there's some controversy there. Are you a fan of his as a wrestler?
I mean, he is definitely a good wrestler. And we had the, certain behemoths of the industry say that he is the future, that he's, has the it factor. But I guess that's done and done. People are not willing to invest in him anymore. People are not willing to, see him or root for him as much anymore. So I guess that's, that's kind of over.
Yeah. I think the word bro has been overdone. What do you think, Jack, about bro? Like a guy like Matt Riddle that says it every sentence. There's only so much you can take of that.
Yeah, there's been so many appalling actions from pro wrestlers over the years. I think the worst story I've ever heard was I can't remember the wrestler's name. He was borderline jobber in AWA in the 80s.
Oh, Buck Zumhoff.
Thank you, brother. That was the most disturbing thing.
You might traumatize her.
What a sick man. Gross. What the hell is wrong with some people?
I hate to even bring it up, but to me, the most traumatizing one was the Alberto Del Rio story, because like it's not some indie guy that has like 5,000 followers on Twitter. It was like an international star in the top company, and that what happens after. Like I couldn't sleep the night I read the story. It was horrible.
And now Paige has come out and said that something similar happened to her, where she'd be basically stuck in a room and he would only, this is what she's saying, it hasn't been proven in court, but he would just come in basically to give her another beating and then leave her there. I don't know if you heard her comments.
Yeah, this is the first I'm hearing that, but that's really disturbing to me. I did not know that.
He basically, I'll let Ksenia tell the story for those that aren't familiar with the Alberto Del Rio story, as there could be some people watching this right now that aren't.
No.
There's
Like,
he's facing serious jail time.
It's hard to even talk about it, and I'll try to avoid the more graphic detail, but the gist is he basically kidnapped and raped a woman with a foreign object.
Yeah, and threatened the child of the lady, tied her up and so forth. So yeah, I think he's facing up to 25 years, is it, if he's convicted?
Yeah, I hope he rots in jail.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with it. I've never met him in person, but it sounds like he's temperamental, if nothing else. If you look at his history, I believe he was fired from WWE at one point for slapping, I don't know if it was a writer or some type of an official behind the scenes, and he's been in his share of assaults over the years. But yeah, bad situation. What about the Undertaker's retirement? I already asked Jack about it. Do you think this is actually going to be it? We've seen him at the Orlando WrestleMania. It seemed like he was retiring then. They decided to kind of do this retirement ceremony without the fans, which I think is kind of unfortunate for the fans, that they didn't want to wait for his fans to be there, and they piped in the thank you taker crowd noise.
Yeah, that's,
but his wife said she doesn't know if he's going to.
I think a lot of things are unfortunate for the fans these days. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of change I would like to see.
Yeah, what kind of dystopian future are we living in that they have to pipe in the chant and like use like holograms and stuff like that? But on the one hand, yes, it's a shame that there was no live crowd there, and it wasn't, it didn't feel as big as I would have wanted it to feel. But then on the other hand, it's like, with the boy who shouted wolves, like no one really believes that he's actually gonna retire at this point. So like I don't have this, I guess I was a bit touched, but I don't have this feeling of it being permanent. And maybe that's why I'm like, I guess that, it is what it is, because I don't really believe in my heart that that's it.
Terry Funk.
I don't either.
Terry Funk has had a retirement match in every decade since the 70s.
True, he has to come back this decade yet. He hasn't come back in the 2020s, but I'm sure he will. I'm probably going to be running into him probably fairly soon. And
don't wrestle him again. Come on.
No, I don't think
that was brutal. That was when I first became a fan of yours. Actually, it was that match because when I saw him afterwards, I was heated. I was like, I can't believe that dude actually did that. And then I got to know you better through the internet. And I said, that's when you just look in the mirror and say, Mark.
Now I see you're wearing a Ric Flair shirt. There's another guy that he had the big retirement ceremony, and then he came back and wrestled in TNA. He's come up and
forget about those years. Those years don't count.
Yeah. Now he's come up in shoot interviews. I'll ask Ksenia about this. He often brags that he's had sex with more than 10,000 women. He's been married, I think, 5 times now. Do you think he's a good role model, Ksenia, that he says he's had sex this many times? But obviously, how long did he remain faithful to his wife if it's that many times?
I don't know, for the wedding night, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my personal opinion is one thing, but I am a firm believer that wrestlers, singers, actors, whoever, don't owe us being a role model. Like, he's not Dalai Lama, he's not the president of the United States. He does not have to be this, pure, perfect person, and none of us are perfect. So,
Oh,
uh,
not at
as
all.
far as I think, cheating is, of course, very wrong. Having many sexual partners isn't. Like, you do you,
No,
that's great for you. But in the end of the day, none of those things are a crime or anything like that. So I mean, good for him.
yeah, I'm a Ric Flair supermark. Flair and Piper. Piper more. Piper's my all-time hero is Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Well, you might see his daughter in the big leagues sooner or later. She has a lot of talent, in my opinion, and she's good on the mic. She just needs an opportunity.
Wanted to see more out of Colt, but he hasn't seemed to be able to break through. I had the opportunity to meet him once as well, but he hasn't been able to seem to break through the Northeastern territory. Um,
According to Teal, his sister, she said that Colt did not take the death of Roddy well, and he's kind of gone not in the good direction since the death. Maybe he'll turn around, but that's what the issue is there.
well, I mean, I wish the best for that family. That's all I could say. I loved Rowdy Roddy Piper from the time I was a little boy, even though I was a Hulkamaniac. You sometimes want to see the bad guy win a little bit. A little part of you wants to see the Roadrunner get killed by the Coyote. You know what I mean? Just the dark side of you just wants to see it happen just once. And there was something about that spirit that Rowdy Roddy Piper captured in the early days of the '80s pro wrestling boom with the WWF. And that was a character that he played like nobody else could have. And I don't know that Hulkamania would have been able to reach the heights it did without Rowdy Roddy Piper. That's not to say that Hogan's replaced. Hogan is irreplaceable, in my opinion. But I'm just going on and on because I love it. Ignore me. Ignore me.
For Ksenia, because we're on TV time here, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today for Ksenia. I am wearing her Ksenia Did That sweater. For anyone that wants them, she can tell us where to get them, and maybe you can plug your social media here before you go. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And this particular merch is low stock running already, so you can DM me for that. But there is new merch coming up pretty soon, which I've teased already on my Twitter. You can follow me on all of social media. My nickname is Xenia Did That with an X on all social media, particularly YouTube, where I do interviews, vlogs, and on my Instagram, I do a bit more of a lifestyle blog. So check me out if you will.
Yeah, we're gonna have to now.
It's worth it for the pictures alone. She's a gorgeous woman, and it's always a pleasure to admire her photos and her style. My favorite outfit of yours is the cowgirl outfit.
Oh yes, I love that aesthetic.
I love the accent. The accent's
Oh, thank you.
Oh, all of us here in North America love the accent. Any closing message you'd like to give before we bring Eve on?
Yeah, I guess check me out on social media, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and support inclusion in wrestling.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, and I'll stay in touch with you, and hopefully we can talk again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.